if you guys are really us, what number are we thinking of? 69, dudes!
Welcome to the 69th episode of News Dump, brought to you by Summit Funding, where we run through the hottest topics in the Lewis County news scene and discuss. I'm Aaron VanTuyl, joined by Chronicle Editor-in-Chief Eric Schwartz.
With authority, I like it.
And Chronicle reporter Isabel Vander Stoep. It is Tuesday, October 26th, and our first order of business, you cowards killed the comments section. Explain yourselves.
Let's started with a call from Dr. Fauci, and just wanted to silence dissent, you know. Get rid of all that anti-vaccine information.
Really bold move by
Really,
you guys.
what it was is I got tired of seeing opinions that were not my own and that were not reflective of the ownership here at the Chronicle, and so we decided that only ourselves would be heard. We're trying to figure out how to do the same thing on Facebook.
As a member of Lewis County's liberal elite, how do you like the feeling of power over the commoners?
Censorship.
Censorship.
I would, I implore them to check out Freedom Ween down in Winlock and air their grievances. Seriously, though, we were becoming targets of like repeated malicious attacks, and I mean that in like the form of links that would send your device to debilitating viruses, but also horrible comments that I don't even really want to repeat. One of them suggested the sexual assault of a staffer here at the Chronicle at one point. We also had people, we would ban a user, and then they'd create like 4 or 5 more burner accounts. We had other commenters who were claiming to be people who that they were not, or agencies that they were not. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we were informed by legal counsel. We are the county's only legally recognized podcast, that we are liable for those comments. So we're taking a step back, and we're hoping to get some better tools to, approve comments.
Sounds like you've already got a big tool in charge of comments.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's also why Franklin's not here, by the way. He opposed the decision and has since been deposed.
He was walking around waving a First Amendment banner, somehow broadcast that onto the website under each story, and changes have had to be made.
Yeah.
Schwartz, would you like to comment on the lack of lights in the men's room bathroom?
I wouldn't, but the note that is on there makes me believe that the lack of lights has not prevented some from using the bathroom. You're talking about the one right down the hall from where we're podcasting.
I keep using the bathroom. I, for one, have done my own research, and I refuse to live in fear. I will still pee in there.
Somebody has to pay for these decisions, Aaron.
The toilet still works.
I don't know how we're just talking about this. These are internal matters.
Anyway, moving on. It's Isabel's first time on the podcast. Isabel, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And how long have you been reporting at the Chronicle now?
So I was hired in late March, and I was an intern until late June. So I've been an actual full-time reporter since then. And so I've been here for more than 6 months now, which is crazy to me, but yeah, it's great.
It's been a wonderful 6 months, and
thank you.
Isabel's a great reporter. I'm not just saying that because she's here, because she found out about the podcast because we were talking about how great she was.
It's true. Some people have brought it up with me.
Just to brag on her a little bit more, she's local. That's like you, Aaron. I think that's extremely valuable for a newspaper to have. Mm-hmm. When you weren't a boat child living out on the ocean, you did live in Adna.
Yeah, people forget my high-class upbringing on the high seas, yeah.
And it just it's so helpful. If you have somebody from out of town, which most of our reporters end up being, it's not just us, any newspaper, you might not notice a name is blatantly wrong, and she has spotted many of those before they went to press.
I think there were 2 in the last
Yeah. So anyways, it's a great benefit to have her here.
Thank you.
Plus, any intern that goes on to remain at the Chronicle for, 15, 16 years, I trust those people. So.
Some of them tend to leave and go to various different places for wild reasons, but, it's always good to have them around.
It's been the coolest job ever. I asked them if they would hire me to be a reporter because I was loving it so much as an intern, so I'm very happy to be here.
We were afraid she'd hate it, frankly.
And Schwartz, you have prepared a series of questions, a Better Know a Reporter segment for Isabel.
It's a segment I totally came up with and didn't lift from any late night talk shows about congressional districts. Great. Yeah, we're calling it Better Know a Reporter with Isabel Vander. Stoep. And the first question, what has been your favorite story that you've covered for us so far?
My favorite story so far was going to Tenino for the first time, and I got to see the oldest known photo of Tenino and speak with the city's official historian, who is just like a really interesting guy, and also like the history of that town is so mysterious to me. And anyways, I just really liked it.
It's our coolest town. I hate to say that.
Very cool.
I don't
the quarry pool is like right there with the museum too, so I got to see that for the first time. It's very special.
Have you, follow-up question, not one of the main five, but have you hit the point where you've gone on a story where somebody's telling you how interesting or exciting something is, and in your head you're like, this is not interesting or exciting? There
have been a few times. On the whole, I do think that every story has something that's interesting about it. There are very few that I haven't been sort of excited about.
I can only think of the one where I was like, well, was that awesome? And you're like, no. And it was very shocking coming from you because it's very positive.
Yeah, it's hard when I have to ask like 20 questions in 5 minutes to get somebody to talk about something. But most people, I think, especially with the stories that I get to do, which are features, they want to talk about the thing I'm asking them about. So it's usually not pulling teeth, and that's a really good time. So,
next question. Who is the weakest link in the newsroom, and why is it Eric Rosane?
Definitely the weakest link is me, because I don't have a journalism background at all. But
you don't really need one of those.
But I'm learning a lot, so.
Yeah, and just to reinforce that, you really don't need one if you're a good writer and a hard worker. We are hiring at the Nisqually Valley News right now, so if you're interested, shoot me an email.
Why are you looking at me when you say that? Like,
you could use a real job. I've been home for like 2 years now. So.
It hasn't been that long. And yeah, you definitely don't need a journalism degree. It sets you apart from those fancy pants that come in from their big state land-grant universities with their journalism degrees and talk about ethics and sources.
Yeah, so far...
Eric Rosane.
Yes.
So far, it hasn't... I don't think it's been like a really big issue, but I definitely have had a lot to learn from my coworkers, and that's been a good thing.
Third question. Were you ever in the Chronicle? And I don't mean the building. I mean in the paper prior to working here, because Aaron VanTuyl was.
Yes, I was in the Chronicle many times as a tennis player for WF West. I went to state in 2015. I was fifth place in girls doubles 2A, so obviously my biggest accomplishment in life. And yeah, but I had never been in the building.
Okay. I'm going to skip the question Aaron added because it's silly.
No, who's your favorite editor, and why is it Eric Trent?
Yeah, like I said, it's Trent.
I agree. He's my favorite editor too.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, associate editor would be bottom run there.
It's accurate.
Yeah. Last one. Tell us. How about just one little known fact about yourself that avid readers, and listeners might be interested in?
Well, my dad and I hold the world record for Oregon Trail 5, the highest score, and obviously that's a really big deal.
I want you to tell us how you got there, because that's the best part.
Okay, so we found out that like the way to get a really high score at the end of the game is just to retire with like a ton of money. Once you like get to Oregon, if you just have a ton of cash, you win.
Art imitating life.
Yeah. And so my dad and I just like sat on the computer for hours on end, and we stayed in town for a long time. We bought mules and then sold them for way above the price, and then we just like racked up the cash. We were able to get all the supplies we need, and then we retired rich.
It's a mule dealership.
And my dad like got tennis elbow from doing all that clicking and like spending that much time on the computer. It's such a stupid story.
No, that's a great story.
I didn't realize Oregon Trail was that true to life.
Mm-hmm. Oregon Trail 5.
I mean, people die.
Yeah, exactly.
Dysentery rampant.
Okay, wow.
That was good. I'm ready for the news now.
Let's start it off with Lewis County Auditor's Office says how to submit your ballot. There is an election coming up. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. Mm-hmm. It's November 2nd. It's a Tuesday. There's an election.
Stop the steal in advance?
Yes. And the Auditor's Office says Registered voters should already have their ballot for the Tuesday, November 2nd election. No stamps required to mail back your ballot, though they must be postmarked by Election Day, so by next Tuesday. The Postal Service says to mail it 7 days early to avoid delays like unforeseen weather patterns like we've been having.
I just like the Postal Service calling the auditor's office and being like, hey, can you let your people know they really need to lower their expectations? Like, this next day mail thing, that's a myth. That's a pyramid scheme.
Lewis County also has 14 drop boxes. If you don't want to mail it, this is a very safe option. Just go up there and kind of mail it yourself. You get to play mailman. You're going to go over there like Newman and be like,
It'd take 7 days to get there.
Trip and drop it in a puddle on your way. You're like, oh no, Larry.
I do like and you have the list here, so you can go down that, but I do like the one over by the old Star Tavern, across from the courthouse kind of.
Yeah, that's the best one. That's where I have dropped
the one I
several
use.
off there. Not in the same election, of course. So the drop boxes are at Centralia College, the auditor's office, downtown Chehalis by the old Star Tavern, the senior center kind of by the fairgrounds. There's also boxes in Mineral, Morton, Mossy Rock, Napavine, Packwood, Onalaska, PL, Toledo, Vander, and Winlock. So, how are you guys voting?
I already voted by mail.
So did I.
Well, you will miss out on the Chronicle's endorsements, which will be in Thursday's paper. We're not, the editorial board, I should say, is not endorsing all races, but there are a few where, after holding those debates, which you can watch at chronline.com, it's still right up under the main banner, that, some of them were worth pointing out a suggestion, which is all it is. It's a suggestion.
So, who made this call?
The editorial board.
Which is composed of?
The editorial board members. Good question, Isabel. Good question.
So the editorial board is...
I just figured people might want to know.
In-house, we have a rotating group of community members that act in a advisory role, I would say. And it's kind of new. I mean, we're recently purchased by a company. But in-house, it's myself. And I don't provide input so much as...
You're like a secretary.
Input, yeah. And then you have our publisher owner, Chad Taylor. We have Coralie Taylor, our CEO. Franklin Taylor, our vice president.
Let's see where this is going.
Kyle McCarricker in there. And Justina Tomtis is in there as well.
Wow, I can't believe I have been eliminated from the
board.
board.
Yeah, you're in there too. We just forgot to invite you because...
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I could have zoomed
Did you get
in.
a say in the endorsements?
No, and now I'm kind of upset. I'm going to contest these.
Aaron,
Stop the presses.
Appeal.
I say this with all due respect, but you're associate editor because Chad got to your window where your office was and asked me what your title was, and I realized you didn't have one. So I spotted a Walmart flyer. I spotted a Walmart flyer nearby, and I thought, associate. He used to be sports editor. He's an associate editor.
You're lucky I have a real job to fall back on.
I'm just kidding. I mean, that's actually how it happened, but I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. All right. Anything else on the upcoming election? The endorsements will be in Thursday's paper?
Yeah, they will be in Thursday's paper. And I kind of like that we waited late because I do think editorial boards can kind of get a little heady sometimes in thinking the public can't do without their endorsements. So we put the videos out for 3 weeks. I think people can make their own decisions, I feel. And then, if you're holding your ballot late in the game and you need an extra push one way or the other, read those endorsements.
I like
All right.
that too.
Our next story, Tribes Bridge built in a day. I really like this headline. That's kind of why it made it on there.
That's my headline.
Just
Deceiving, though.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that the accuracy has been called into question.
So the new Oakville span is among just a few innovative structures of its kind in the U.S. It's on Howanut Road, and the Chehalis tribe and its contractors met early Friday morning to assemble the innovative steel and concrete bridge, which replaces a 50-year-old wood bridge. My first question, is 50 years old really that old for a bridge?
For a wood bridge, probably.
It makes you wonder why
What about the railroad trestles? Those are wood.
Yeah.
Those are super old.
Mm-hmm.
Way
Made
old.
of railroad ties and things.
Yeah.
Just wondering, 50 years ago, they had the technology.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. That's an Eric Rosane story, by the way.
A Rosane banger. It connects the eastern and western parts of the Chehalis Reservation and has about 500 cars a day. According to Rosane's reporting, it took 4 truckloads of steel components from Oklahoma and 175 cubic yards of concrete. The goal was to assemble it all in one day. This is the first one of its kind in a West Coast state. But he doesn't say if they wrapped it all up in one day. Very disappointing.
We had...
They definitely didn't.
Yeah. It was possibly assembled in one day. So how it happened was...
A better headline would have been Tribes Bridge not built in a day.
I should have put a question mark on the end. Tribes built in a day?
Built in a day?
Yeah, but everybody knows if you ask a question in a headline, the answer is no.
I stand by it. It was mostly assembled in a day. But what had happened was the company and the tribe reached out in a joint press release to tell us that this bridge is going to be installed in one day. On Friday, our deadlines are 3:30 p.m. when we send our paper off to the press.
So they were still
working on it, and then we heard via a follower on Twitter, I believe, the next day, it's not done yet.
It would have been. You could have done the sports writerly thing and been like the bridge was not wrapped up as of Chronicle's deadline.
I'm waiting for a letter to the editor with the headline. Chronicle's headline: "A bridge too far."
Oh,
that's pretty good. Next news item. Take steps to get flood smart this flood awareness week. This was actually last week. It was flood awareness week in Thurston County. But since we're sort of the best at floods here in Lewis County, what advice do you guys have for helping people get flood smart? Maybe if they're out of town or just moved in and they're, wary of flood season. What do you guys got?
Mine would be the most common phrase I've ever heard in 15 some years of covering floods around here is it has never flooded here before when we go out and cover flood victims. So I would never trust a flood map. If you're near a body of water, you should just assume that you could flood at some point.
All right.
Yeah, that is good advice. My advice would be very careful about where you put sandbags. They divert water, they don't absorb it, and a lot of people put them in the wrong place so that they actually go into your house in a different way or into somebody else's house. It's like a big issue.
I was not aware of that.
I would generally suggest trying not to live right next to China Creek, just because it runs under our building, and every single winter we get to, see water bubble up through the floor.
This building has never flooded before.
I think it has, actually. Facts, what are you going to
say?
Yeah.
Let's see. Next news item. General election. Erickson.
Can I hold on 1 second?
What?
There was a flood meeting yesterday, the annual flood meeting. I just wanted to highlight that we attended it, and we'll have a nice story on the flood outlook, which, I have to say I'm a bit skeptical of because I've covered these meetings, and part of it is trying to guess, is this going to be a flood year? And you just really can't know. Having said that, this feels like a flood year.
They hold the old flood meeting at Jester's Auto Museum.
Looked like it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thankful that this storm did not happen in December because that would have been a flood storm. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was a good storm. So I don't why do they have it at Jester's Auto Museum? It's a flood meeting. Hold it in an abandoned library or something. It's too classy.
Hold it in sunbirds.
They hold it knee deep in the swamps by Yardbirds, just so everybody understands.
The Yardbirds Lake.
Yeah, throw some lived experience in with that.
They had it in the past. It's been at the Veterans Memorial Museum, but I don't know. Jester's is the new event space. We recently attended an event there, the Economic Alliance of Lewis County meeting, formerly EDC, don't you know?
Formerly EDC, yes. Yeah, Jester's, the hot new spot. If you're going to give out some awards and talk about some public funding issues, go to Jester's. Let's see. General election. I can't remember why I threw this one on here. But Paul Erickson and Fred Ryder are competing in a race for the Chehalis Port seat. It was a story. Paul Erickson, owner and president of Shelton Structures, a Chehalis Industrial Park manufacturing tenant. Fred Ryder, former mayor of Chehalis, currently works as a sales and marketing manager for Toledo Tel. Who do we like in this one? What's the editorial board?
We don't pick candidates.
You just talked about the editorial board. Did they weigh in on this one?
You'll have to pick up the paper to find out. I would say in this race they spent much more time agreeing with each other than disagreeing.
Oh, it's one of those.
Right, but and it's not a cop-out to say, when you have two good candidates, sometimes you have two good candidates. But I enjoyed their debate. It was our quickest debate, I believe. They offered very quick answers. My favorite portion of it was when Fred Ryder, who was former chairman of the Lewis County Republican Party, just made sure we knew that he didn't owe anyone favors, and if anything, people owe him favors, which I thought was pretty funny. It was in jest, but it was enjoyable.
Do you want to talk about the Port Commissioner debate we moderated last week? Port of Olympia?
Yeah, very briefly, we can talk about Aaron and I were invited to a Tenino Chamber of Commerce candidate forum to moderate Got another gig while we were there. Tentative.
This one's a big one. This could be the breakthrough
Hot
prize.
items.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a fun debate. Only half the candidates showed up, except for the Port of Olympia races. But
Which is not a debate.
No.
If half
not a
the candidates
debate.
don't show up, it's a statement.
No, it was good, though. One of the gentlemen zoomed in and was walking around answering his questions, which I found funny. And we couldn't really
Yeah.
wave him off because he wasn't there once he hit the time limit.
Yeah, he was a talker. Nice guy.
He really was. Or he guaranteed us he wouldn't need the 3 minutes, and he needed the 3 minutes.
He went 2:58, I think. They were all really nice. They were all very polite competitions.
It was fun. And that follows our Oregon Trail Days. So if you wanna book us for an event, reach out.
If you got big things going on at Tenino, maybe even Bucota, I don't know. Maybe we could announce the casket races next year.
We could
If we're not competing in
We're
them.
going to compete in them. So
All right.
I'm dead
I
set
want to
on
be
that.
on that. Oh.
Didn't even mean
wow.
to say that.
You could say our team is dead ringers.
How many people are on the casket race teams?
Wouldn't want to be dead last.
No, between 3 and 5, I think.
Yeah, you can be in on that for sure.
Yeah.
Did you see my headline, putting the fun in funeral?
Yes.
I mean,
Strong work.
You upset at least one Nisqually Valley news reader because we published that story there too, or the photos there, and their response was, "There's nothing fun about a funeral."
oh gosh.
They're
I'm so sorry.
funerals.
No, it was a fantastic headline.
It was just
really
a
good.
little joke,
No,
okay?
it was good.
Wow. You'd say that joke was dead on arrival.
Okay.
Let's see. Our next news item. Few employees leave over COVID-19 vaccine mandate, local hospital reps say. So at Providence, which includes about 40 clinics offering services throughout a 5-county region, roughly 98% of caregivers are in compliance with the mandate, according to our boy Chris Thomas. Arbor Health, a healthcare provider in East Lewis County, has a staff of about 239 employees and 29 contractors. They lost 2 employees, and about 165 have been vaccinated. The rest got exemptions. So those numbers, good or bad?
I don't know. I think it's fine. Rural hospitals, at least according to my reading, were predicted to have the more trouble after this than some of their larger counterparts. So I think it's natural to see more exemptions out there. I think likewise with schools, we've seen that as well. More exemptions at the smaller districts were being approved.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair. And we didn't really get any numbers at all from Providence, which I was disappointed about. But I'm not exactly educated on the topic, so I don't know if they don't have that number yet, if they're still waiting on some holdouts. But we'll follow up.
Yeah, it was a good story to have in there. I liked it. Oh boy, our boy is back in the news dump. Washington state legislators.
He's not your boy, Aaron.
He's not my boy. Locked out of offices over vaccine rule. Republican Representative Jim Walsh back in the news after laying low following his Star of David controversy. Posted a video Tuesday showing himself unable to access.
He never laid low. He did not. I resent that comment.
He cut off the live stream for a couple days at least.
He has a daily live stream.
Showing himself unable to access the House office building using his identification badge, which doubles as a key card. He called the rule a slippery slope towards lawlessness. I would argue that it's the exact opposite. A law is being enforced, and it is preventing Walsh
You're
from
allowed
getting
to have an
into his
opinion, Aaron.
office.
That's fine.
He also called it un-American, saying legislators should act as a check against what he called Inslee's unlawful behavior rather than following his lead. A friendly reminder, vaccine mandates have been pretty normal for un-American institutions like public schools and the military for decades.
False equivalence.
What other videos of oppression would you like to see Jim Walsh film?
I don't like the fact that any lawmaker who's elected by the people isn't allowed to go in. That's my personal opinion.
What would be the line where you say it was not okay for them to go in?
If
Start
they're
naked?
If they're threatening people, maybe. If they're, infected. I mean, you could test them too, and let them in that way. We're the only state that I'm aware of that doesn't provide a testing option. So I really don't like it. I don't think the majority of Lewis County residents really like it either, because even lawmakers who have gotten the vaccine, I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's one area where I will offer an opinion, just because I'm not a fan of it.
Is Walsh vaccinated, do you think?
If I had to guess, I'd think so, but that's a complete guess.
He has previously, not said anything about that whenever asked. I don't think that he's made a statement one way or the other, right?
I think Isabel's right. I think
so too.
Does not think that anybody should be asked that question.
Do you think, how many times did he, I want to know how authentic this video is. Was he just randomly filming himself walking into his office and being like, oh no, it doesn't work?
I don't know. I mean, the other part of it is not many people are working up in Olympia. That's been one response I've seen to it is, you're working remote anyways.
Yeah.
Why do you want in? I think without him highlighting this, I wouldn't have known about it. The first place I saw it was on his Facebook channel, and then the AP covered it, and then we picked it up from another source that we have, the Center Square. And that was the only person that was sourced in that story. They also pointed out the Star of David like you did. So I think that's fair. It's related to the vaccination issue. He apologized for it. And I don't think that was smart. I don't like the idea of elected lawmakers after the fact not being allowed to go in where they're supposed to be doing their jobs. I don't like it. I know it brings you great joy, Aaron.
I mean, obviously. Look, anytime we get... Anytime the law happens to give Jim Walsh fodder for a great live video, I am for it, whether he is being tossed into a dunk tank shirtless or standing next to a rock and, philosophizing. I would like to see him protesting mask mandates at a series of Grace Harbor fast food restaurants, just going down there, getting booted out of Taco Bell, then KFC, then Burger King.
Well, I thought I forwarded it along to you, but he is the Paul Revere of our beef shortage at Arby's, because he went to Arby's and they didn't have beef, so he's definitely going into those establishments.
You will be happy to know that they ran out of chicken sandwich patties at Buffalo Wild Wings late on Saturday night when Pete took us out to dinner.
Let's go, Brandon, am I right?
Yes, good for you. Let's see. Our next item, Ashley Christman, Centralia's very own Food Network star, to reappear as a Christmas cookie all-star.
This is all Isabel. I got nothing on this.
Yeah, Isabel, go to town.
So last time the Chronicle checked, things were going very well for Centralia baker Ashley Christman, who made the front page last year after winning $10,000 on Food Network's Christmas Cookie Challenge, which she told me today was like her lifelong dream, realized at 27, which is great.
The Cookie Challenge or being on Food Network?
Being on Food Network.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And then today, things are going even better. Christman, a 27-year-old Centralia resident, is set to reappear on the show's Returning Champs episode, which will air on November 11th on Food Network at 9 p.m. Central Time. So that's, I think, 7 p.m. real time in real life.
I think you're right there, yeah, because there's the mountain region in between.
I'm pretty sure it's 7.
Yeah, it's 7.
Is it Pacific, Mountain, Central, Eastern?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, so just like a...
Boat boy.
Times work.
Just an update on where she is now. With her $10,000, Christman got married. She's actually Ashley Shire now. And she's set to open a storefront for her business, Sweet Dough Cookie Co., on Main Street in Centralia around the end of November. And for this upcoming episode, she would not tell me if she won. But she also hasn't told anybody she can't.
But did you get a vibe? Because last time she was on...
I was like, I was really trying to find out. I was kind of trying to read her face, but I really couldn't. She has done this enough times now. So she's like had to tell her mom, her husband, like she can't tell anybody. So she definitely...
Venture a guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of...
Did you see like what her cookies look like? Or anything?
Her cookies are very beautiful, and they look delicious. I didn't eat one. But, yeah, I kind of, like, got the feeling that she did go on. Just the way that she, like, said it. I don't know. She had this kind of rehearsed way of saying getting to the second round, and I felt like maybe she did, but it was really hard to say. So we'll just have to watch the episode and find out.
Interesting. The first
That'll
time...
be in Thursday's paper, too, right?
Yes, we will have a story on that.
Yeah, the first time around, Jackson covered it, and he was on the podcast. He's like, she wouldn't say, but she totally won, you guys. I know it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I can go ahead and say that'll probably be our most popular story of the week, because anytime we've covered her, it's she's got quite the following.
She was really, really nice, and I loved talking to her.
More popular than the story about a big cougar?
No, that one's our most popular of all. Thanks to the spokesman review for that giant cougar. That story cracked me up, by the way, when they were describing its sheer size. They were like, it was so big, they had to shoot it twice, and it flexed its forearm, and the first dart fell out.
It's like a mutant cougar.
In that story, the hunter was quoted as saying, "I knew with this shot, it was either going to go high, low, or hit it."
Like, well, that's Got all your bases
It's
covered.
like one of two things are going to happen here, and
You're
they list
so
off
right.
4 options.
I knew it was going to hit the cougar or not.
Yeah, that one had a reach of like 500,000 on Facebook,
Whoa.
and it was liked like 4,000 times. It was
It's a great story.
Yeah, it was a sleeper post, but Lewis County residents love their outdoor recreation.
They love stories about big animals.
Yeah, getting shot.
Yeah. If it was like large cougar saved, it would have 2 likes and 1 share.
Yeah. I also felt bad for the cat. I'm glad we brought this in. We missed it last week because the way they described it too in the story was this cat was just chilling. He was just straight up laying,
Yeah.
relaxing
Yeah.
under a tree, just living his best life.
Yeah. Also, the hunter was not hunting cougar. Like,
No.
he just stumbled upon that big old cat.
Murked it. That's what a lot of the comments, or its virility was in people that were absolutely horrified that somebody would shoot a cougar. But I think that's not really our readership around here for the most part.
No.
Yeah,
they're-
people definitely search for cougars to kill
Mm-hmm.
here.
As long as it's legal. You know, they don't like poachers out in the Gifford Pinchot. We learned that. But,
No, they don't. You got to follow the rules. Then you can shoot whatever you want.
Yep.
But also, they are a menace. I mean,
I like how we segued from Christmas cookies into that. That's awesome.
very important.
And now we're talking about Ryderwood.
Oh, I love that. I love getting in Ryderwood. It doesn't happen enough.
No. Ryderwood residents look to restore fishing pond. So Ryderwood had a fishing pond, and it's kind of fallen apart. You know, it's suffering from sedimentation and overgrown vegetation. The residents want to clean it up themselves. That's what they do out there. When their store burned down, they built a new one and made it volunteer run in a community center. What a flex by the old timers in Ryderwood.
It's a senior living community just south of Vander in
Yeah,
Cowlitz
it's
County.
what, 55 is the minimum age?
I believe so, yeah.
Great. So, you know, about 17 years, pack my things, head down.
It sounds like a great place.
But
It does.
it's like a 500 person at least community,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, it's really like a town.
Yeah, 503 people. Mm-hmm. And they're not incorporated, but they do have their own like pseudo government structure. So it's like if a town council combined with like an HOA. It's kind of
Yeah,
how I've
kinda.
always imagined
Interesting.
it.
Yeah.
I was, when the Vader school got shut down, I went down there to talk to some people about whether or not they voted for a levy or something. This was back in, I don't know, like 2007. And I got invited. I went to try to find people. There was nobody around. I ran into this old man who dragged me to a card game with him. I had a great afternoon.
In Ryderwood?
Sounds so
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's like, come on in. This guy wants to ask us some questions. I was like, so you guys want to talk? And they're like, no. And they dealt me in. It's like, all right, I guess this is what I'm doing today.
My introduction was the Seattle Times came when I was probably around the same time and did a big feature story on, they had a fire department. And so it was the oldest fire department in all of Washington.
Yeah, of
and
course.
their like average age of their member was like 70-some years old. They're responding to fires, but which, you know, it kind of ties into the story. They're talking about that as a source of water should there be like a paradise-like fire down there, that the pond being in healthy condition would just, you know, if they bled the hydrants, there'd be another way to get water in.
Yeah. So anyway, their pond is in rough shape. At its prime, the pond was 6 acres and about 7 feet deep. It's got a boathouse, some fish. But over the years, as I mentioned, sedimentation and overgrown vegetation have overtaken much of the lake. Now, however, as resident Linda Munson said, every place that I went out to on that pond, my line was less than 3 feet in the water, and I came out with nothing but sludge. They're not happy about what's happened to their lake, so they're going to try to fix it. They're going to fix it up. Good for them. Clean it up. Clean
They
the
had
damn pond.
dignitaries there too. They had like a Cowlitz County commissioner was there. I think their emergency management planner maybe. They had several folks there. And Emily Fitzgerald, the reporter on this one, she did something that just I always enjoy. I always get great satisfaction when you kind of just assign something as I kind of read a flyer, do your best, and then they turn in, you know, just 8 great photos and a wonderful story that is really interesting when you didn't think it was going to be. So she did a great job on that one.
My Ryderwood story is that once I know somebody who went there in the 80s, and apparently back then, half the town went to go get their mail at 8 a.m. and the other half at 9 a.m., and they had like a feud between the two halves.
That's awesome. Oh, that's great. Was that just to like not overrun the post office so that there was...
I don't know, but I know that there was I think there was an issue that led to it, and I think that it was some drama.
Man, that's something.
I know.
All right, our next item, Lewis County coffee owners celebrate their new stand and reflect on their careers. This was an Isabel jam. Isabel, would you like to explain?
Yeah. So I met with the two owners of Lewis County Coffee Company. That was Samantha Steiger and her stepdaughter. What's her last name? Angie
Twining.
Thank you.
I'm looking at the photo.
And yeah, so they just started Lewis County Coffee Company in 2017, and so far it has like totally popped off. And in celebration of Women's Small Business Month, the Chronicle spoke with them and just kind of said, what's it like being a woman in small business, and what advice would you give, and where are you now? They just recently opened a new stand on Jackson Highway, which marks their 6th stand, I believe. And they're basically now all over the Twin Cities and are expanding their reach out to, they have another stand also on Highway 12 by Spiffy's. So yeah, they got a lot going on, and they were two very nice and interesting women, and I really liked talking to them.
Did they hook you up with some coffee?
They did not, but I wouldn't have accepted if
What?
they had.
What the hell, Sam?
Ethics, Aaron. They have 60 employees now, which I thought was impressive.
That's a lot.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Your story.
Yeah, just like because it's a coffee stand and they hire baristas, obviously most of the people who work there are women also. So it was relevant, and they had a lot to say about what that was like.
I liked the part where they put it in the gas station parking lot, and they were like, if it fails, no biggie. Like, we'll just give it a shot. This isn't ideal. And then to just see it explode as it has been awesome. It's always nice to see a local business succeed, especially if one's like branded for Lewis County.
Yeah. And they're really hardworking women. I mean, they just wear every hat and do everything, and they had a really big focus on getting to know their staff by name, and that's always really awesome to see. So,
Well, Sam's from a farming family, so
you know her?
naturally. Vaguely.
Interesting. Just know that she farms.
No, the Steiger family's got a farm in Shalos, and they have for a long time. Dairy farm. I believe they had the first robot milkers in Lewis County.
Oh, yeah, we wrote about those.
There you go.
Unrelated to the coverage, completely separate, on the business side, I am happy to announce that starting in November, Lewis County Coffee Company will be handing out free copies of the paper with a purchase of coffee.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. It's a
Circulation
new partnership.
just shot up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll shoot up significantly because of that, and it's not something the newsroom's handling. I just am aware of it, and so I'm looking forward to that, though. I think that's a nice, innovative approach to take a long time, 133-year-old business and a 5-year business, and
Mash 'em
helping
together.
each other succeed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Isabel, how are things at your home? Are things
Well,
good?
I live with my parents.
You thinking about changing that maybe?
I'm
or
thinking
you
about
good
it.
There? What are you looking for in a new living situation? You want like a house? You want to live in a tent? What?
Probably a tent, yeah.
Think a little bigger for the sake of this argument.
Okay, a house, a mansion.
Big tent.
A really big
A
mansion.
penthouse?
Does Lewis County have any penthouses?
I don't think so.
Like live on top of the Lewis and Clark building?
I don't know.
I mean, you could technically set a tent up on top of this building and call it a penthouse. As I feel like maybe Rosenbaum did at one point.
I think if I lived in this building, nobody would notice.
Oh, you could do it for sure.
Oh, it's been done.
It's true. I forgot. Yeah, we had a sports writer who lived here for a while.
Yeah. So what are you looking for in your dream house besides it maybe being a penthouse?
I don't know, something that's easy to clean, I guess.
Something smaller, maybe like a bungalow situation.
Sure.
All right. So say you find this dream house, this ideal home, this bungalow that's also kind of a penthouse, maybe on top of a mountain. You can live next to Schwartz in his mountaintop.
Oh yeah, I
situation.
secured financing with the promo code last week.
Yeah, so when you do, you need to call Summit Funding. They're the home loan experts. Just call up, talk to Jason Gillespie, and he will hook you up with everything you need and explain the process. And faster than you can imagine, you will be living in that beautiful, sweet bungalow or tent, whatever you decide. Call Jason up at 360-330-4037. That's his office number. You can send him a fax for some reason. 205-4099. Email him at GillespieTeam, that's Gillispie team, at summitfunding.net. Visit him at 1616 South Gold Street in Centralia. And of course, Use promo code NEWSDUMP and get 50% off your first house. That is a guarantee issued by this.
It is not guaranteed by Summit Funding. We need to make that clear.
Incredible podcast. Still in negotiations.
There's no negotiations. It doesn't exist.
Let's see. You guys ready for Tales from the Takes page?
Yeah, looks like you just have one on there.
I do. This is from Julia McDonald, and she wrote about former Washington State University football coach Nick Rolovich and how he couged it. She writes, I'm sure many anti-vaxxers in Lewis County consider him a hero, but as the mother of a university student, I'd prefer to see the staff and students she interacts with on a daily basis protected as much as possible against the coronavirus during a pandemic. She writes, also, as a Catholic Baptist, I was a Catholic longer than Rolovich has been alive. I often check to see what the Pope says about controversial issues of the day. In August, Pope Francis launched an appeal asking people to obtain COVID-19 vaccinations and calling it an act of love. She mentions the Catholic angle because Rolovich said he filed a religious exemption based on being Catholic, and the school and athletic director were biased against him for that, despite the Pope endorsing vaccines and the athletic director being Catholic. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it was.
I don't feel strongly about this one, like the lawmakers thing. I really don't. I feel like I don't like the mandate. I'm on the record for that. But if you've already done it to Jane and Joe up in Olympia, there's really no justification for not following through with your $3 million man out on the Palouse.
Yeah, and his reason for filing a lawsuit is fairly weak.
I don't know. I'm not a legal mind like you, Aaron.
Well, I mean,
I didn't go to Albertsons College, okay?
Look, I'm not a legal mind, but I despise hypocrites. There's two things in this world I hate: hypocrites and podcasters.
Good.
Anyway, that was our column. Any other columns you'd like to mention that you saw that you liked? Or that you wrote?
Not that I saw that I like. No, I haven't written a column in quite some time. I didn't see any others that I loved, I guess, but that's not really why I publish things. We did have a somewhat controversial one that we ran. It was from a member of the Freedom Foundation, and I mean, some thought it was pretty extreme. I think it reflects the views of probably a majority of people in Lewis County, but it was from Senator Doug Erickson, and it was why Governor Jay Inslee needs to resign. Not an opinion I hold, but it is one that people have, and they sent that out. I didn't see other papers run it, so I think we might be an outlier there, for better or for worse.
Exclusive.
Not really. They sent it to the entire state press corps. So I just, I thought we try to show all sorts of views on the opinion pages. So I do think it's interesting you have that extreme. We're still, advocating for vaccines and things like that when you have like Julie McDonald, Brian Midke writing regularly on the topic. So I think it's worth representing the spectrum of opinions in Lewis County, and that one I think is pretty far out there. Jay Inslee, I don't think is going to resign. That's a hot take.
Wow, what a call!
But he wrote it, and that's that. That was another take.
There's also been a lot of letters I've noticed about the Vicki Daniels, Kelsey Hamilton race for Chehalis school board seat.
Yeah, that's been a hot one. The other one that has, I would say, probably more letters has been the Kyle Markstrom, Paul Crowner, Port of Centralia race. Mm-hmm. Both of those races, the school district and that one, those are probably going to be the most competitive, probably see the most interest so far. And there's always races that are for whatever reason more interesting to our readers than the others. So, But yeah, the big guns are coming out. We have the former superintendent of Chehalis coming out for Vicki Daniels. We had some
which one?
Rothland.
Eddie?
Rothland. Yeah, he came out for Vicki Daniels. We've had some from her as well. And if you haven't seen the debate, go watch it, because that was probably the most, not combative is not the right word, most engaging, as far as they were really whipping out those rebuttal cards. Unlimited rebuttals here at Chronicle World Headquarters.
That'd never fly.
Looking at you, Chamber, with your 1 and 2 rebuttal. I'm just joking. I like the Chamber.
Did anybody else use them?
Yeah, but in other races, I'm thinking Rebecca Stabler and Althauser in that Centralia City Council race. I believe a rebuttal was used to say, I agree with what she just said, which I thought was is not a rebuttal, but it's just a buttal.
That's like throwing the instant replay flag if you're an NFL coach and being like, I just wanted to get another look at that. Damn.
Just wanted you to know I agree with the original call.
It's a sick touchdown.
But yeah, we've had lots of letters. And the phenomena I appreciate about election season is you start getting all these election letters and it starts this wave. And like clockwork, we start getting more letters that have nothing to do with the election. And I think it's just because it's just a volume thing. You have more of them, people see more of them, and they're like, I got opinions too. So
yeah.
We'll have another like full page of them probably in Thursday's edition. So,
okay,
yeah.
People's Champion of the Week is Eliza.
Yeah, Elisa.
Elisa Martell from Second Chance Youth Unified Blessings. Isabel, this was a story you wrote.
Yeah. So I found out about this woman through I just saw this event on Facebook that was like a free painting thing, and it was being held at Second Chance Youth Unified Blessings, which is an insanely long name. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I feel as though I should. And I just reached out through Facebook, and the event organizer put me in touch with this woman who is running basically a donation service through a booth in the Yardbirds Mall, which I refer to lovingly as the Dirt Mall. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't have any credentials or business license. She's not certified as a charity. She's simply doing this out of the goodness of her heart, I suppose. And people give donations, and then she is basically just giving them to any kids who want them, and also trying to just keep a safe space for kids to come hang out. She was a really interesting person. She told me that she spent 20 years of her life homeless, and just one of the most unique people I've ever met. And I told Schwartz this story already, but when I was talking to her, she said, God gives me messages and I can see things that people don't say. And she says to me, I can see your foot pain and how that hurts you. And I have had chronic foot pain for years. Like, I got leg surgery for it. And I was like, I don't even know what to say to this. It was so crazy. It was just one of those, like, really wild assignments one of the many that I've had where I've met really interesting people. So
and you didn't tip her off that you had foot issues.
You were limping.
I don't think I have any weird way of walking. I have a small scar on my leg from the surgery, but that's not showing. I was wearing pants. Like, I have no clue how she could know that. She just appeared to be clairvoyant. I don't know. And I don't, like, that's not really...
I think we all should go over there one at a time from the newsroom, like unaffiliated with one another, maybe wearing disguises, and just see if she calls us out on all of our unknown pain.
Yeah, she's definitely an interesting person. And a lot of people who read this story had different opinions about her and what she should be doing, and if she should be doing this without a business license. And I mean, that's for you to decide. I just thought she was such an interesting character that we should have a story on her. So...
Yeah, I don't know how you walk away from that story without just positivity. Or I was fairly crushed at the one line. The most earth-shattering moment Martell recalled from the years she spent homeless was when a young girl she was close to froze to death because nobody knew she had been living under a bridge. And her mission is now to prevent any child she knows from the same fate or a similar fate, I'm sure. Yeah. And that was a rough image, and you can see someone that lived that hard lifestyle. Not all of them come back and, use it for good. So I thought it was a great story. Also, one you enterprised yourself. I had never heard of that organization before, so it was a good find.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounded cool. Next up is our Burn of the Week, an Eric Schwartz special. And Eric Schwartz, take us through your Burn of the Week.
It's not a great burn, but I've been getting flack for not having good burns lately.
The fans demanded. Both of them.
Yeah. No, this one was, it's pretty much boilerplate at this point, but John Brown sent out a statement taking issue with Governor Jay Inslee's characterizations of people that haven't had the vaccine as being conspiracy theorists and unwashed masses, not worthy of a state position, et cetera, et cetera. And I just thought this was extraordinarily strong language from Braun, who's usually on the more conservative end. Just this one part where he said his disdain, so they're talking about Inslee, his disdain is manipulative propaganda being used to justify firing people whom he had touted as heroes for a year and a half, which true, on the year and a half heroes thing. Propaganda is a very strong word. I had an editor tell me that once. It's like, you don't break that bad boy out unless you're ready to back it up, and we've got our Senate minority leader saying that's what Inslee's about, so...
Yeah, I'm just so glad there hasn't been any evidence of propaganda being used by any State legislators
I'm
on
also
the right
happy
side.
it's sticking to one party.
Yes.
That stuff can catch fire, man.
Anyway.
No, that's a fair point. The only reason I put it on there is because Senator Braun has been a conservative yet moderate voice at times when I think there's an entire wing of his property that wants to pull a January 6th.
It's.
I don't mean people in the
I-
party, by the way. I mean there's members of the public that's been what they've been asking
People
for.
have been-
something
He
like that.
chooses his words carefully.
Yeah.
Do you mean
Yeah.
the people shouting 1776 at John Braun? I mean, is that what you're getting at?
Oh yeah, that kind of thing.
It's
People giving Braun a pocket constitution.
Yeah.
when he's in the military.
Yeah, I can. I take Braun seriously. It bears repeating that Braun saying, "Look at him, he's doing a propaganda," while Jim Walsh is out and about is kind of funny.
Yeah, no, for sure. I have differing views, but I do agree with that sentiment. It does. I know a lot of people that have not had the vaccine that I would not describe as conspiracy theorists or anything like that. I might not agree with their decision. I might actively debate with them why they would do such a thing. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're conspiracy theorists. Some of them are just scared. It sounds like random to maybe you or others who look at the numbers, but some people are just scared to put something relatively new into their body. And despite the science, it's hard to get over fear.
Yeah.
It was determined that fear was a factor, Aaron.
Did you just what? Well, fear is the mind killer. I don't know if you've watched Dune yet, but
I'm halfway through. No spoilers.
Siren's Banger of the Week. I'm not going to get into the details of this story, but I just read the headline, which is Southwest Washington man accused of helping son at 12 assault 12-year-old boy, and thought, oh dear, I've made sirens again.
That was a rough one. That was from the Columbian, just to be clear. That didn't happen around here. But the dad held the arms of the other boy while the 12-year-old wailed on him. To be fair, I look at my son, who is 6 years old sometimes, and he's very sensitive. He's just a very kind boy, and I think, man, someday somebody's going to hurt his feelings. I'm going to have a hard time not going off at the parents. I've never thought, going off on the kid.
Well, I have.
I guess you have, because you got a 12-year-old. That was something.
All right, and we're going to wrap it up with Facebook/Cronline comments. Oh, wait, just Facebook comments of the week.
Sorry, okay? We're working on it.
This was on a story about State Auditor Kim Wyman maybe joining the Biden cabinet. Of course, Wyman is a Republican.
She's definitely joining now.
Yeah, she had a statement come out after this was posted, but with this comment, look at it this way, she is being rewarded for being an undercover Democrat operative by one of the worst administrations in history. Another comment, party switch I see. Another comment, the Chronicle, do your research on why Culp had to drop the lawsuit.
Because the attorney was going to get hit with you can't just make claims that have no backing.
And also as to the...
Wait, hold on. I want to hang on that
Culp
Culp one for a second. Because he lost by 500,000 votes. That's why.
Yeah, over 500,000.
I'm sorry. That one frustrates me.
And also, this is a spokesman aggregation of a CNN report, not exactly original reporting by the Chronicle here.
Oh, man.
They do not, contrary to popular belief, you do not have an inside line into Biden's cabinet picks.
When I'm an upset Republican, I like to attack the one elected Republican in state government. That's just where I go,
Yeah.
But that was also to bring up your good friend Jim Walsh. He posted the rumored exit yesterday, and he posted it with, if true, disappointing, because he would want to keep her around, I presume. And yeah, he was quickly countered by his own commenters. So I don't get it. Wyman stood up against the claims that the 2020 election was not legit. She's traveled around. She's been very vocal about it. So I can get why a certain subset of the population is not a huge fan.
And say what you will about the current administration. I don't think they'd bring in a shitty auditor.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. It's not even, this is a phenomenon. We haven't reported on this, but it's county auditors, Lewis County Auditor, Thurston County Auditor, all county auditors are getting hit with this stuff right now, and it's it's a little mind-boggling to go through. I'm sure some of these career people where you've spent your whole career here where, voter turnout's 30%. And, in Lewis County, for instance, Republicans are going to win, since early 2000s. To have people come and question you on your motives and your job duties and everything just because you got riled up about a presidential race that didn't go the way you thought it was going to go.
Yeah, it's the auditors are not who you should be upset with here.
Especially Lewis County Auditor Larry Grove,
your
and
boy.
his hearty staff.
Let's see. And the other comment I pulled was on Jim Walsh and Young. I don't know who Young is. Decrying the expansion of the COVID vaccine mandates to private employers. The comment was, let the lawsuits begin. Watch Inslee cave on his quest to line the pockets of his new shirt-tail relative Bill Gates. Once again, Jay Inslee, not related to Bill Gates.
That you know of.
I did a lot of research.
I was going to ask you, did you do your research on this one?
I did this on a previous episode. It was like Inslee's daughter-in-law worked for the Gates Foundation at one point.
There was a connection of some sort, but yes, you are correct. It wasn't something like that. That story, by the way, was just a press release rewrite, and it sounds like Walsh and Young is Jesse Young. He's a Republican from Gig Harbor, trying to get ahead of the L&I passed a new list of emergency proclamations, and built into it, according to Walsh's reading of it, would be a mechanism for which Jay Inslee to require a private sector vaccine mandate as well. I don't know if that's true, to be honest. That was the first time I've read of the broader, aside from Joe Biden's threshold of 100 employees or so. Yeah. Anyways,
that's Facebook comments of the week. You've made that clear.
Did I mention I don't like it, Aaron?
Yes. Would you like to borrow a cudgel to continue beating that dead horse? Or
No, I wouldn't.
This concludes the 69th episode of Chronicle News Dump. Any closing thoughts, either of you?
No, we'll have a good paper on Thursday. We did
some
have
sweet editorial.
This might be
board
something Isabel
endorsements.
might want to speak to on a other level, maybe.
What?
The tennis and wrestling facility. We have a story not written by Isabel about it, but she's probably a little informed. No?
I haven't read the story, so I will see what that is all about. But the Lewis County Tennis Association is currently in talks with the Chehalis Foundation to try to build a tennis facility, which would be a Lewis County-wide facility, hopefully to get people to be able to play tennis locally. Right now, there's only one indoor court in Lewis County, and so it's a wonder that we have such an incredible tennis program.
You should bring her to sports dump.
But yeah, so we will probably have more news on that as the situation develops, but it's definitely something that looks like it's going to happen. Steve Ward recently joined that project, and I think that gives it a lot of validity. If you ever want to talk to me about it, I'd love to. So.
Yeah.
Steve Ward being a tennis guy does not surprise me in the least.
I actually don't think he is. I think it's just because he has so much history with public facilities, and
His title's going to be construction manager.
Yeah, so. Nobody in Lewis County has more experience with this kind of thing than him. So it's totally a great get for the LCTA and the Chehalis Foundation to do that. And he was on the Chehalis Foundation board and is leaving it in order to do this project with no conflict of interest, which really shows how awesome and committed he is. So.
And it's a wrestling facility too, according to
the activators are in on this as well. Right now, I haven't even read this, but this is all off the dome. I just am involved, kind of. The Chehalis Middle School right now does not have a place where their wrestlers can practice and do their meets. So hopefully, out of 4 tennis courts, one of them would be dedicated to the Chehalis Middle School wrestling team for a couple months out of the year.
I think it's awesome. It's a $3 million construction project scheduled to break ground in 2022, according to the press release that we processed today.
All right, cool.
Stories up at Cronline.
Check that out on cronline.com. We will be back next week with more, lukewarm.
Don't forget
takes
to
about the
vote.
news. Also, hey guys, there's an election. It's November 2nd. You got your ballots already. Fill them out. Turn them in. 14 ballot boxes. You can find out more on the internet. That's all. Thanks for listening to News Dump.